cool, whatever. So I get down there, going all the way down there. Yo, it's a true story, and I'm over here, so y'all can't do nothing about it. Y'all gotta like this. So I go down there, and the whole time I was over in Ethiopia, I was probably like, you know what I mean? Like I saw one tag out in Ethiopia, but people weren't really doing graffiti. And I'm not a graffiti artist. I was inspired by graffiti artists. I might tag something here or there, but I ain't go out there to tag. You know what I mean? I go out there to look at art, and I'm out there and I'm looking at these pyramids, and I'm like, man, this is the biggest graffiti hit up ever, because people are like, who did this? How did they do this? Da 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 da. You know what I mean? And not only that, there's walls and walls and walls, and all these walls have writings on it. Not just writings, pieces on it, like pictures, pharaohs and stuff, you know, crazy stuff. No doubt. And I'm like, and it's all over. And I'm like, wow, this is the biggest thing. And then as you get closer, you see people scratch their name into some of the rocks and stuff. And I'm like, man, and it's, you're not supposed to climb the rocks. People climbing, people scratch their names. And I'm like, at first I was like, that's kind of disrespectful. But then I'm like, I mean, I hang around graffiti guys. Not really, you know what I mean? And no matter what people scratched in, those hieroglyphics were still there, still deep in there, still fresh, you know what I mean? And I'm like, man, like, nothing could go over these, you know, this is crazy. And then when I walked into that place, like on the outside, some things are falling apart, but when I walked into that thing, it looked like it was built yesterday. I swear, like, you walk down this tunnel, it's a little rocky, and there was like a couple that was coming up this way, then I walked down, and then I'm in this chamber, and the walls were completely like smooth marble, like writings on the walls, like all this, and there was like a little bowl area right here, almost looked like a bathtub. And in that like I walked over there and I kind of stood in there, and then it was just quiet and it was just calm. Nobody was there, and I was just breathing, and it kind of took. I was taking it all in, because the fact is, I really thought I was gonna die before I got on. Like a week before, you know what I mean? A week and a half before, I was faced with my own mortality. That, like, you know, like I could die something. So I wanted to see something before I died. And I wanted to see the pyramids. I was either going to see it or I was going to die trying to go see it. You know what I mean? And the fact that I was there, I was inside. And the last test was that dude, the whole time he was like, oh, the pyramids are nothing. Like, I was on the camel, this and that, rode the whole thing, you know what I mean? Like, and he was like, and I was going to, like, just because he said the pyramids are nothing, I was going to not go in there. And I was like, yo, you know what? I got to go in here, man. And he was like, all right, whatever. You know what I mean? And I went in there. And I was taking it all in and just breathing and seeing all this stuff. And then as I was focusing, I was also seeing like a little pen mark here, a little scratch mark here. And I'm noticing, I'm like, man, there must be more than like 200 people who wrote their name in here. And I was like, man, that's so crazy. And I'm still thinking, man, it's so crazy how this is so pristine. This is so great. This is so whatever. And I put my hand in my pocket. And as I put my hand in my pocket, I don't know if I have one. Oh, yep. It's probably the same type. I put my hand in my pocket at the same time, and I pulled out a Sharpie. You know what I mean? One of these chisel tips, just like this. And I was like, yo, the whole time I was in Ethiopia, I wrote my name on one bathroom, and that's only because there was a lot of stuff that was there, and it was only in the pen. You know what I mean? I was just like, you know what I mean? And I was like, man. And the whole time I didn't want to even hit it up, but I had just put my hand in my pocket, it had just touched this, and it just... my hand just went around and gripped out and it was there. And I looked at the pen. I went like this. And I wrote Budda Black right there. There was a slab right there in the middle where I was standing right there in the tub. Right in the middle of the slab. There was writing here, writing there, writing above it, writing below it. And there was a fat open space this big. And nobody had any marker tags in there. And I was like, yo, Budda Black all day. You know?
Yo,
and I was like, yo. I'm all world, baby.
What I want to do is, like, anybody that could give me a picture of that Budda Black right there, yo, I'll give you a prize.
Yo, I'll give you a prize, yo. I will give you a prize, yo. If anybody goes to Egypt, yo, call me up. I'll give you one of my paintings. I'll give you a $5,000 painting.
Wow.
If you get me that picture.
Wow.
Which it has to be, no digital picture. I need a click picture. Like, you have to take that and take it to the Photoshop.
You know what? Now it's a race, because I'm gonna try to do it first, because I want that painting.
And I told you where it is. It's in the first pyramid of the first queen of the first pharaoh right behind the Sphinx. There's a lot of other interesting stuff there. We could talk about all that stuff all day. But the next thing that happened was the most interesting thing.
And what's that?
As soon as I finish writing, I put the cap on. And I go like this to put it in my pocket. And as I'm putting it in my pocket, I hear somebody go, "Hey." And I'm like, "Oh, snap." Because outside, like this is like not even a national monument. It's like a world monument. So you got like the federales out there, and like these guys carry very big machine guns, you know. So I'm like I don't know what type of like trouble I would get in, even though there's all these tags. But I'm like, all right. Now my guide, he warned me. He was like, anybody you talk to out there, just don't talk to anybody because everybody's gonna want to be your tour guide. You know what I mean? Just tell them that you got a tour guide, or just don't talk to them at all because they're gonna want to talk to you and just get money. And so I was like, all right. So this dude was like, hey. So I didn't know if he saw me right, or if he wanted to be a tour guide. So I just kind of played it off like, hey, what's up, man? You know, no. At first he said, hey, and then I acted like I didn't hear him. And then he said, hey, again, and I was like, all right, I'm in this chamber down here, like I can't ignore him, you know. And then so he's like, hey, let me tell you where you're standing. And I was like, all right, cool. He didn't see me do what I was doing. And I was like, nah, I'm good, man. He was like, where you from, man? You speak English good. He was like, oh, you from New York? And I was like, nah, man, I'm from Jamaica, man. I got no money, right? Like, not saying that Jamaicans have money or Jamaicans are beautiful people, but I wanted to say I was just from Jamaica because I had the hair, you know what I mean? I had the locks and shit, you know what I mean? I do the accent, you know what I mean? And then, so he was like, yo, all right, well, let me just tell you where you're from, like where you're standing right now. He was like, right now you're standing in the exact middle point of the pyramid. You know what I mean? And I was like, what do you mean? He was like, well, if you turn the pyramid upside down on itself, like that's where you'd be. You're right in the center, right at the point. And he was like, there's a lot of strong energy there. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And then he was like, yeah, in fact, that's where they found the mummy of the queen, who's in the museum right now. And I had been to the museum like the day before, and I saw all the mummies of all the people who were in those pyramids. You know what I mean? I think they actually had King Tut at the museum at that time too.
The actual mummy, you could see the mummy.
Yeah, like you see the face and like
that's crazy.
They got a chamber. They got like a room. You gotta pay like $20 extra to get in there. Mm-hmm. I think it's like called like the Pharaoh's room or the King's room or something like that. It's small, probably like smaller than this basement, or maybe the size of this basement. You go around and just like little cases, and you can see the mummies in there. And like some of them you can see their faces, you see their teeth, you can see their bone structure and everything. You can see.
Was there any mummies that were giant or like taller than or were they all pretty much looking like normal?
Yeah, I mean it wasn't nothing like how they be saying on the internet where it's like 15 feet people and stuff. Nah, I mean in general, if you look at people from all over the world, like there's people who range. There's certain, I don't want to say I guess ethnicity is probably the most PC word, you know, but there's certain ethnicities and certain peoples that might range 4 to 5 feet, and there's other peoples that range 6-7 feet, you know what I'm saying, which is almost double, you know what I mean? So I mean, depending on who wrote history, somebody might be calling somebody a giant if they're of a people of a shorter place and they've not discovered but went to another place and saw people that they've never seen before.
That were a little taller.
Yeah, that were a lot taller, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, yeah, so, I think, but, I mean, again, you never know. Like, I think that a lot of times, man, I didn't really want to get this deep into it, but a lot of times, there's a lot of times when people say that, like, oh, aliens had to have made this, or aliens had to have had some contact between them. Now, I mean, maybe that could be a thought, you know what I mean? Like, there's also the thought that, there's also the thought that humans actually could have done these things, you know what I mean? Yeah. And like, when you actually put those thoughts into it, things become a little bit more possible, you know what I mean? Like the fact that, you're like, all right, aliens could have done this, but I mean, since the Renaissance era, you know what I mean, which is the rebirth or whatever, like in the 1400s, it's only been about like 600 years. And look at New York City. You know, Egypt had dynasties. Not only they had empires within dynasties. You know what I mean? They had 20-something dynasties, and some of these dynasties were millennia long.
Right.
You know? So they had thousands of years of technology and stuff like that. You know what I mean? A lot of it, some of it was lost, but just like after the Greeks, a lot of some knowledge was lost, and the Romans discovered it. Some of that knowledge was lost, but the Greeks got some of their knowledge from the Egyptians, you know.
I had wanted to say though, like you said that the carvings of the hieroglyphics were so deep, like you couldn't even mess with it.
Oh yeah, you can't mess with that stuff.
That's so crazy. The reason is the pyramids themselves are like over 6,000 years old. You know what I'm saying? And for them to have carved something like that, that's withstanding the test of time.
Yeah, and the test of weather.
Yeah, and weather and everything, like even vandalism, anything. You know what I'm saying? Like for it to still endure through all of that, it's almost supernatural.
Yeah, exactly,
you know
exactly. And I think that's why people are like aliens made it. Maybe not aliens in the fact of outer space aliens. Maybe alien. If you look up the word alien in a dictionary, in the actual dictionary, not on the internet, like they don't really say much things about extraterrestrials. Alien just means something that's not common. You know what I mean? Not known. So alien, yes, to the fact that we don't know how they did that technology, but there's basic technology. I mean, they did a lot of they were very meticulous on leveling the surfaces, very meticulous on other things. So I mean, if you really want to get into that, if you're a builder and stuff, you want to get into all that, you can learn all that. But again, like I mean, I do a little bit of building, but I don't do pyramids. You know what I mean? I can't do it. I might need aliens, but I think that they actually did it. I believe that a lot of the people that were in South America actually did it. I believe that the pyramids that are in China, because there are pyramids in China.
I had no idea.
Yeah, I didn't know about that until I went out there too. Until I went out to Africa. There are pyramids in I think, I'm not sure if it's China or if it's in Thailand, where there's pyramids. But yeah, somebody was telling me about their pyramids out there. There are pyramids in Sudan, in the Nubian area. There's actually there's more pyramids I think in Sudan than there are in Egypt, but they're smaller and they're like more acute angled. Yeah. But the Nubians apparently like the Nubians took over Egypt for a little bit in their later. It's a long story. You do your research on that. I'm just gonna get back into this art, man.
I also heard there were pyramids in the Sea of Japan too. You know
in the sea? Like in the sea?
Under the sea, there are pyramids.
I did hear that. Hear that. Which I mean, and that I don't know how the infrastructure of Japan is like. You know, I don't know how the land is. Maybe they might be being that it's a very volcanic.
Maybe the sea levels rose
exactly.
over time, and that submerged them.
Exactly. But there's also, and I didn't really notice it until actually I talked to a Filipino person. But you know about the Negritos?
Nah.
So apparently, do your research on the Negritos. You know what I mean? Like, see, I didn't really want to get into all this because, like, see, this is why I wear masks, because I'm always like, conspiracy theorist. You know what I mean? Like, I try not to you know what I mean? I'm not one of those like, oh, do this or do that, or, you know what I mean? Like, yo, like, all lives matter, whatever, you know what I mean? And like, yo, just do your research, do your own research. That's what that's what the girl said on that last episode. Do your own research on everything.
No doubt.
Do physical copy research. Don't just do internet research.
That's right. That's right.
And look at things with an open mind. You know what I mean? I think like without to get into regular politics now, I think that a lot of like every society, every type of people has something to be proud of, and every type of people throughout history were slaves somewhere. So you know what I mean? Like we all got some shame too. You know what I mean? And we've always all enslaved each other too. And we've all came from the same seed, from this earth. You know what I mean? Like whether you could say like, oh, we came from one person, we came from evolution. We all came from this earth. You know what I mean? Just like the animals came from this earth. And if we could communicate with an animal, but we can't communicate with them enough to learn from them or to actually speak their language, what do you think an alien's gonna come out here and talk to us and give us technology? You know what I mean? Like, yo, when you start thinking about stuff like that, you're like, yo, I don't know, that's how I think. You know what I mean? It's like, yo, there might be aliens, but at the same time, like, the disconnection from something that wasn't on Earth, we're a lot more connected to a cat than we are to a caterpillar. You know what I'm saying? And we're more connected to a caterpillar than we are to an amoeba. But all these things are products of Earth, and all these things have DNA that we all share. Now, something that is alien not of this planet, that didn't grow with the same rate of oxygen, nitrogen, and everything on this planet, is going to be so out of touch with the communication of us that we probably wouldn't even notice that it's a being. For example, a tree is a being. You know what I'm saying? That's a living thing, and it's like, yo, any science class will tell you that, you know? So it's like, the fact is, like, we're expecting an alien that's not even grown from here to look really like a human, just with a bigger head and, you know what I mean, these big eyes. But at the same time, you know what I mean, like if it came out and was an amoeba, or if it was a tree, or if it came and was a gaseous, like an alien could be a gaseous substance. You know what I mean? You really don't know. You know what I mean? So it's like, when I think about that stuff, I think that out of my mind, and I have more time for other things. You know, it's like you could always like think about that stuff. You could always YouTube that stuff. You know what I mean? But like, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Go through your stuff. I spend a lot of time in the studio alone.
Well, you know,
going
like
through rabbit holes. You know,
with our eyes, for example, like we only see visible light, which only makes up like 10% of the spectrum. Mm-hmm. So it's also a possibility that aliens could be completely invisible to us.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So that's possible too.
That's very, very possible. And not even aliens. There could be things on this earth that are invisible to us. You know what I'm saying? Because there are species of snakes and that could see on the infrared spectrum and also on the UV spectrum, you know, or sense those, you know. So man, all right, sorry. Let's get back. Egypt. All right. Boom. Egypt, I'm in the pyramid, I do the thing, dude comes down and he's like, hey, and I'm like, oh snap, I'm in trouble. And then he tells me, all right, well, you're in the most special part of this pyramid, and that's where the mummy was found. And I'm like, that's crazy. So I had just seen the mummy the day before, and when I had walked in the room before I saw the mummies in there, one thing told, and I had bought the ticket before I went in there, and for a second I was like, man, I shouldn't even be looking at these mummies. I mean, I don't want nobody digging me up, and that's disrespectful.
Putting me on display.
Yeah. And I was like, you know what? I already bought it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm here. And then like when I went in there, I didn't want to even touch the things, but I just went in there. I made it kind of around, and I kind of went around the same way I came. I didn't want full circle. You know, I was like, you know, let me leave. But I didn't really feel too bad leaving it and stuff, so I felt all right. And that next day when I was there and I was in that tub. And he was like, yeah, that's where the mummy was found. And I was like, the first thought that came to my head was like, am I cursed? Like that was the first thought that came to my head. And that thought instantly came out with like, no, I'm not. Because number one, I didn't even feel as bad writing on that wall as I did walking around and seeing the mummies the day before. And I didn't even feel that bad after seeing the mummies. You know what I mean? And I was like, I don't feel bad, you know what I mean? And I was like, it wasn't really even my intention to come in here and do that. I kind of almost had the feeling, you know what I mean? It was a flow thing. You know what I mean? It wasn't like it wasn't like something guided my hand, but it wasn't like I came in there with the intention. It was just a flow thing. Absolutely. You know what I mean? It's just like a thought. You know what I mean? You don't think to think a thought. Your thoughts just flow. You know what I mean? So it was a flow thing and just physicality. And when I did that, and then like I was thinking, I was like, you know what? It was kind of like, again, maybe it was probably the spirit of whatever was there. Maybe her, maybe just the spirit of Egypt itself, and just the spirit of that being an art monument or a school or whatever it was, you know what I mean? But just that monument that it was, that millions of people have seen it for thousands of years. It was just that came to me, and I just flowed with it, and it felt good. You know, it just felt good for me to flow. You know what I mean? And again, I'm not a graffiti writer. I know a lot of people who do write. I know people who write all types of stuff and on all types of things. I'm not condoning illegal activities. And I know a lot of people who've turned that over into legal things or have only been legal. But from graffiti writers to fine artists, like there's something they always talk about, like the flow, you know? And it's not something to explain. It's not even something to put words to. You know what I'm saying?
Nah, I know
but you know what I'm saying just by talking about it. You know,
Absolutely.
kind of like when you asked me to freestyle earlier, you know what I'm saying? It was like, if I was doing that, I would, but again, I haven't done that in years, and I'm not gonna, I won't flow, you know what I'm saying?
No doubt.
I can't, you know what I mean?
You feel it.
Not
You
that I
know
can't,
when it's
but
there, though. You know when it's there. You can feel the
Exactly.
flow. You be like, all right, let's go.
Exactly,
You know what I'm
and my concentrations is on the art, you know what I mean, and on that flow with that. So, but being over there in Egypt, man, it was cool because when I had done that, I was like, man, it was almost like it was a bit of freedom, and it was like, man, I kind of just did it because I wanted to. I kind of got it off, and not that I was like, oh, now I want to go hit up anything. You know what I mean? I'm older now. Luckily, I went over there, and I was older when I went over there, because otherwise I'd have been like, oh, now I can do this. You know what I mean? But after what I had, just the conversations that I had in Egypt and also with Ethiopia, and just opening my mind to just that international, you know, it was interesting. And
I had wanted to touch base on that too. I know that because we had a conversation before we started recording. How was it? How was it in terms of like the community in Africa when you were in Ethiopia? Like, how was that? You know what I'm saying? Like the community based upon like, as opposed to American cultures and stuff like that, what we're used to. How was it over there in Africa with community and the vibe and the feel of everything?
I mean, so again, I was only over there for like a week or so, and same thing in Egypt, and I wasn't in any. I didn't really go too many places, but so I can't really say if people like. It seemed like people were people everywhere you go. The thing that tripped me out, besides just the small community, was just the largeness of it, because community makes it sound like a small thing, and when I went over to Africa, I was thinking community, I was thinking villages, I was thinking tribes, I was thinking huts and spears and stuff, you know, or like something along those lines, you know what I mean, or at least Ethiopia flies, and you know, like starving people, you know, it's like there's starving people everywhere, but also there's Jordans everywhere. They had Jordans on their feet in Ethiopia.
Time out.
Not
Did you say that one more time?
Yeah.
There's starving people everywhere, and then there's Jordans everywhere.
Yeah. Yo, like
crazy.
for real, yo. They had
Crazy.
They had Joes on out there. Like they had some faux Joes, but then they had some real Joes too, yo. Like I'm not really a Joe head, man. Like I mess up my shoes all the time. But they had real good prices on the Air Maxes though. Like yo, if you Air Max head, go out there, man. Like, do your research, go out there, like get some Air Maxes, just have a good time, man. Everything is cheap out there. I don't really drink, but like beers are real cheap out there if you go out there. Food's real good, man, and
I don't know what to think about that.
Yeah,
cheap alcohol.
Yeah, cheap, very cheap alcohol. I'm not sure what time the bars close, man. I was walking around at 4 in the morning. Like their time is real different. And you're on the other end of the world. I don't want to get into too much of that. Go out there, experience Ethiopia if you want to go out there. The one thing that tripped me out, like, I could talk about Ethiopia longer than I just talked about anything that I just talked about, or just my travels and just those two travels in general. But the one, like, the more I talk about it, the more it kind of takes away from the experience. Because I didn't take any pictures over there. I drew everything, and
I think it's more connected like that too, though. You know what I'm saying?
And like, no matter how anybody explains it, it wouldn't even translate right. Because like I went out there and I was expecting, like I said, I was expecting small stuff, and I walked into a city, and not even like a city where I've been to some cities like in the United States where it's technically a city, technically has a lot of people, it has a downtown with big area, and then you could walk out of it. You know what I mean? Like the only cities I've been into where you can't walk out of like the building areas is New York. I haven't been to Chicago yet, but like even Newark, it's like, I mean, like you might walk through a couple hoods and stuff, and might try to get out the hood, but like the big, there's not really skyscrapers there, you know what I'm saying, or tall like 10-story buildings or stuff like that. Like, yo, Ethiopia, man, like the city area, it's like even when you pass the downtown, it's like still big. It's kind of like Newark, you know what I mean? There's a lot of life there, a lot of people there just in the city. And then there's a lot to see in that country that I didn't get a chance to because I only booked 10 days. Mm. But man, it's one of the highest countries in the world. It also has the lowest land point in the world too. Yeah, it's interesting. there's a point in the country. It's the lowest point in the world. It's, I think, it's either 30 or 300 feet below sea level. I knew there was a 3 in there. And it's also the hottest point in the world because it's hotter than the Sahara Desert.
Wow.
Now, the reason for that is because there's 3 tectonic plates, and Ethiopia is a landlocked country where it is right now. So there's 3 tectonic plates, and it's in the north part of the country, and these tectonic plates are all moving away from each other. And being that they're all moving away from each other, but it's not close enough to fill in from the ocean, it's just very low land, and it's so low that it actually has pools of lava there. Yeah. And it's super hot. Yeah, it's like some of the hottest temperatures. And the oldest fossils have also been found there too.
Really?
Yeah, I want to go there, but yeah, and that's just Ethiopia. There's a lot of countries in Africa.
I am sold on my next Africa trip.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That did it for me. Hopefully it does it for you too, man. First of all, let me say this too on this platform is we all should probably make the trek to Africa.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I think that's a big thing, you know, spiritually for everybody is to just go to Africa and just learn too. You know what I'm saying? It's also a research project for everybody to go there and get the truth. Not something that you're seeing on media. Not something that somebody else is telling you. See it for yourself and learn it for yourself. So we know, you know? I think that's very important, man.
Yeah.
Knowing is, they said knowing is half the battle back in the day, but knowing is the whole battle.
The whole 100%.
Word up, knowing is the whole battle. You need to know, you know what I'm saying? It definitely is a great experience.
And the more you know, the more you grow, because the more I found out there, the more I found out about myself. And then I didn't really I went over there kind of I wanted to just touch my feet out there, but when I came back, I was like a little bit more proud to call myself an African American, and I didn't realize that I had that lack of pride, you know? And then it also, as coming over here, I wasn't really, there's still a lot of things that I just deal with as a person, you know what I mean? This is an artist, you know, but I don't know, I did that, you know what I mean? It's like, yo, knock on wood, you know what I mean? A lot of people would be like, oh man, yo, when I went over there, I thought I was gonna die, and I've done a lot of stuff that in my life, you know what I mean? And every day, in the last couple of years since then, I've done so much, you know what I mean? But at that point, I was like, bro, not that I won, but everything else, you know what I mean? Yo, that was the bucket list for me, and I didn't realize it until the last day I was there, and I was on the mountain with my boy, and I was like, I took my shoes off, my socks off, and I put my feet in the ground there. You know what I mean? And touched my feet in African soil, and the ground, there were rocks on the ground, there were sticks on the ground and stuff. I put there, and it felt like the plushest carpet. Swear to you. You know what I mean? I must have been, also Ethiopia is where I was on a very high altitude. So it might have just been the altitude. You know what I mean? It might have been the natural food. But my feet didn't hurt, you know what I mean? I was like, wow. And I put my socks back on. I didn't walk around that much. I put my socks back on and walk like civilized people. You know what I'm saying? They don't all walk around with no shoes on. We put our shoes on, we got back on the bus, got back in the car, and went back to the hotel. But, what's it called? But yeah, it was beautiful. And just that experience, just going over, just being free and going over to Africa and just to the pyramids and seeing that. And that whole culmination of that, I was like, you know what? It's just like, yo, I just kind of got to go with the flow. And then after that, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to make my plans an hour ahead. Now I'm to a point where I say 15 minutes ahead, give or take 15 minutes. You know, sometimes it might take me a half an hour. Sometimes I'm just like, all right, cool. You want to go somewhere? Let's do this. But yeah, after that, I came back to America. This was in March 2008. I came back. I was chilling. I had to break down a gallery. And I was just chilling. I was chilling at the house. I was contracting, so I was in and out of work. And I was off for a week or two when it was April, week before my birthday. And I was like, you know what? I had tried skydiving before, but when I had went, it was raining. You know what I mean? I had attempted once, but it was raining, and I was like, this was a year or two before. And that was also another bucket list thing. You know, I'm scared of heights. I don't like heights. I don't like roller coasters. I was like, I got to do it before I die. You know what I mean? I don't got to, but bucket list, whatever. You know what I mean? And then after Africa, I was like, you know what? It's an insta bucket list. I just, you know what I mean? It's not. I'm not checking off stuff on the list now. The list is checked off. I'm just adding stuff to the list and checking them off as I go. You know what I mean? So it's like, yo, I'm just stacking stuff on top. And then now it's like, you know what I mean? I'm not limiting myself. Now I'm like over here, you know what I mean? So I went skydiving. It was like it was April 22nd. My birthday was on April 30th. April 22nd. And you know what? I'll let y'all know how old I am too, man, because that'll put things in perspective. April 22nd. I went skydiving. I was like, wow, that was pretty cool, man. Try that if you're interested. Awesome. I could talk about that, but another story. 5 days later, on a Friday, it was April 27th, and my birthday was the 30th. And since I was like 20 years old, I was like, yo, I'm going to travel the country. I'm going to sell art, this and that. And I had sold art on the street just when I first started, you know, like when I was selling CDs. And I had sold my art in Albany, New York while I was selling my CDs. And I was spray painting because I was trying to get good at painting the car. No doubt. I was just doing these paintings, and I was just like, oh, this was 2013, and I was numbering them all in the back, and I was doing them on paper, and people were buying them, you know what I mean, and buying them more than my CDs. And like, it wasn't making a lot, but like $10, $20 a painting. And then I got into a gallery within a couple of weeks of doing that, you know what I mean? I got into like 2 or 3 galleries. I didn't have any canvases. I went to the art store to get some canvases. Then it was like, yo, art modeling, $20 an hour. I was like, cool. I started doing portrait modeling, and this was all within a couple months of me starting to paint.
Wow.
Yeah, and then I started doing portrait modeling, and then just sitting there, and the teacher was like, oh, his head's tilted this way. Learning, like hearing what the teacher was saying, I was learning just sitting there. And then I was also getting paid, and I would talk to the teachers, just build. And so I was able to navigate my way through the art industry within the first couple months of me doing it, just off my experience from the music industry. And just like, you know what I mean? Because I didn't think I was good, you know what I mean? But I knew that people were like, oh, you know what I mean? This is good enough to get in this gallery. This is good enough to get here. So I was like, if they think I'm good, then the more I work on it, the better I'll get. You know what I mean? Let me just stay around these communities. So that was 2013. And I had already gone to Albany doing that. I had gone to maybe Ocean City, Maryland once or twice, just doing it experimentally, but never really like full time. And before that time, I was always wanted to go and sell CDs. I had been selling CDs, but I'd sell them a couple dollars each. I made some money, you know what I mean, $50 a day here, there. Mm-hmm. And I sold a decent amount out of my trunk, you know what I mean? But that was my whole thing. I wanted to sell CDs, sell merch. And this, I was like, all right, I could create this. It sells quicker. I don't even have to pitch anything. People are coming up. And I'm pretty much done with music anyway, you know? And so I kind of had like a little crossover, like, because I'd be like, yo, you want a CD with the painting? They'd be like, nah, you know what I mean? And first couple times I heard no, I was like, then after a while I was like, I'm still performing, I'm still doing this, they're still getting a piece of me. And so that was 2013. Flash forward to 2018, I had just come back. I just skydived. It's 3 days before my birthday. I had just got my car fixed up like the night before, oil change and everything, because I was like, this summer I'm going to take some trips. Like just the night before I was like, I'm going to take some trips this summer. I woke up the next morning and I was like, all right, what do I got to do today? Should I paint something? And I was like, you know what? Now I got my car fixed up. I'm going to go to Cali. You know what I mean? And I was like, yo, I'm gonna take 2 weeks to go out there. I'm gonna take 2 weeks to come up the West Coast and 2 weeks to come back. I was like,
that's mad sporadic.
Yeah. Exactly. But like again, I was like, yo, that's how I felt. You know what I mean? I got that same feeling that I got when I was in Egypt when I wrote on the wall, which was not a feeling that like, oh, a feeling. It was just, it's not even a feeling, it's just a flow. You know what I mean? It wasn't a thought, it was a thought. You know what I mean? It just flowed. So I was just like, all right, cool, I'm gonna go to Cali. It was no like anything else. So boom, pack my shit. Oh, sorry.
It's all right. I already said it too.
All right, cool. I packed my stuff. Packed my stuff real quick. Just packed like a quick duffel bag. And got on the road. And I was gonna go to Pittsburgh. And I was gonna call people on the way to just make sure everything was right. And I was like, all right, cool. I've been to Pittsburgh before. I went out to Knoxville once for the eclipse a couple years ago, and that was the furthest south I've ever been. And I was like, I had sold in those two places, so I knew where to sell in those two places. and I met a couple people there. So I was like, you know what? I'll go to those 2 places. I knew a girl in Dallas just off of like Facebook. I was gonna go down there and kick it with her, and then I was gonna go with my cousin in Arizona, and and then go up. I was just a good day or 2 in each place. So I got to Pittsburgh, spent, and the reason why I was doing it, because again, like I said, I didn't want to, I'll tell you my age. I was 34 at the time, and I was like, yo, after 35, that's like, you know what I mean? Like in my head, I was like, yo, 35, that's old man after 35. You know what I mean? You can't before 30. Before I was like, you know what I mean? You always push it like, all right, I'm okay when I'm 18. Or no, I'm okay when I'm 25. You know what I mean? Okay, like, so I was like, yo, 35, yo, I got to do this before I'm 35. And I was always saying that to myself since I was in my young 20s. I'm going to go out through these road trips, go out through whatever. And I was like, bro, it's 3 days before my 35th. Yo, I'm out. You know, so I went. Pittsburgh, boom, sold a day or 2 there. You know what I mean? It's cool. Went to Knoxville, and as I was driving to Knoxville, it was like the day of my birthday. It was so beautiful because it was spring, and it didn't bud in the north, but in the south, everything was budded. So as I was driving, I saw the transition, from nothing on the trees to buds to flowers to the petals falling to full trees, all in one day, all on my birthday. So beautiful.
Wow.
Yeah,
wow.
that was like one of my most beautiful birthdays, man. I guess except the one I was born in, but I don't really remember that.
Making good memories, though.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm going down. Went to Knoxville. After Knoxville, I stayed there for 2 weeks, for a week, and then I went to North Carolina. Then I went back to Knoxville, and then right then I was like, yo, my timetable's off. I should have been in North Cali by now. You know what I mean? But I was like, you know what? Like, let me just chill around the South. I was actually pretty successful. So then I went to New Orleans. From New Orleans, I went to Panama City, Florida. And by the time I was in Panama City, Florida, I was already out for maybe a month or so, a couple weeks, So it should have been on my way back, but I was making money, I was making enough to survive the next day. We got into a couple spots. Sometimes I would sell stuff. People would come back to me, and I would just like sleep in the back of my truck, take showers I got a Planet Fitness membership. So I would go and work out, take a shower, or if I didn't want to work out, I go to a truck stop, But yeah, I'd always try to stay clean, go to work, just paint my stuff, and then make money and just make
That's
connections.
Incredible.
Yeah.
That you was able to just live like that, have money, not worry about having to go to a set job, 9 to 5, you know what I'm saying? You wasn't really trapped by the system. That's a big thing, you know what I'm saying, that we could get into and we could speak for hours at end, but we're not going to do that, right?
Yeah, exactly. And no matter what, there's always the system, the theoretical system, but it's whatever system that you put up for yourself. So if you think that you're in the system, then that's your systematic mentality for that. You know what I mean? I still had to have some type of system, even if my system was completely loose. And it's like, again, like I'm fortunate to have a decent amount of stuff here and to build up a decent amount of stuff and to be inspired by other people who built their businesses. Like my mother built her business. Her stepfather built his house. So there's a lot of building that went on here. There's a lot of that energy. And for me to grow up and see that, for her to grow up and see that, and there's a lot of hard things that come with that too, you know what I mean, but there's a lot of rewards that came with that, you know what I mean, and I wanted to say that, I also wanted to say that too, because a lot of people, and I really don't even say that a lot about my past and my upbringing, but like a lot of people think that certain people are at certain levels, but I like they're entrepreneurs on all levels, and my mother, I guess, like, she's Trinidadian, you know what I mean? She would consider herself black, but she would always, like, you'd ask her, she'd say West Indian, but, like, so she's a person of color, and she's a woman, and she started her own business. Not only did she start her own business, she started with my dad after they were divorced, and even they were able to make 2 kids and able to work in a business that they both knew about, you know what I mean, to help, and that gave a platform, you know what I mean, because like, nobody could do anything without anything else, you know what I mean, so that also gave a platform for my upbringing. I saw how that was created, and and that gave a platform for me and my sister to have a decent life. You know what I'm saying? And there's a lot of people with decent lives. There's people that are less fortunate than me, and there's people that are so much more fortunate than me. You know what I mean? And fortunate doesn't mean monetarily fortunate. I think it's all mentally, you know. But the fact that I was just put into certain positions kind of helped me, or that, you know what I mean, and as I get older, my mom will tell me certain things, and I realize how many bullets I dodged or where we originally grew up. You know what I'm saying? But I really think that kind of crossed over, and I think that a lot of people are kind of ashamed to accept help. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of people want to do things on their own, like, just so they can be like, yo, I did this all on my own. Or a lot of people are ashamed to really say that, like, yo, they had help. People want to be like, oh, I came from nothing. You know what I mean? It's like, yo, like every painting that I've made came from nothing, but really didn't, because it came from a canvas and it came from paint. You know what I mean? It still came from me. You know what I mean? And I'm not nothing. You know what I'm saying? So nothing came from nothing. You know what I mean? And everything that I learned is whatever my parents either taught me or didn't teach me. You know what I mean? And you know what I mean? So, like, it's nothing to be ashamed of where you came from or where you didn't come from. Again, like, I'm not rich, I'm not poor, you know what I mean? But, like, I'm not gonna say I came from nothing, because that's disrespectful to my parents. And I think that my mom did a lot of stuff, and my dad, he lives down in Virginia, but he's one of the he's a black African American real estate appraiser down there. You know what I mean? And I'm proud of him. He started a new career down there, man. So, you know what I mean? Wow. Like, anybody could do, and he started that in his 50s, I think. Wow. So anybody can do anything. Like, I started painting in my 30s after Unity said I could paint, and I was like, psh, I can't paint. You know what I mean? And then going around, like, I manifested what I wanted to do by traveling around for years, but I thought I wanted to do it with music. You know what I mean? And I still manifested it, but, like, I was building my own wall, because I was like, music. You know what I mean? And if it's not music, it can't be done. You know what I mean? If I'm not doing it myself, it can't be done. You know what I'm saying? And then when I was able to kind of just throw myself into it and just be free with it, you know what I mean? And, like, I meet people and they be like, hey, you want to crash on the couch? Like, there's people. I met a girl when I was in Okaloosa Island, Florida, and I was just going out there, just driving around looking for places to set up. And I met her in the parking lot. I was just going to my car to go set up, and she was like, yo, you're an artist? And I didn't even have the stuff in my hand. And I was like, yeah, how'd you know? And she was like, oh, you got like a spot of paint there. I was like, and she was talking to me for a couple minutes. She was leaving to go back, and she was like, and I just told her my story real quick, and she was like, oh, if you need a spot to stay, you know what I mean, come stay with me. And she was like, oh, and it's like, no funny stuff, like, I got a boyfriend, like, he lives with me, but I'm gonna give him a call and just let him know, just off the strength. I was literally talking to her for less than 5 minutes, and she was like, yeah, just give me a call. She was like, oh yeah, I gotta go, I can't hear your whole story, but you're a traveling artist, I got you. And I was like, cool. And for her to trust me, and then and again, like, I don't want to get into the whole, like, you know what I mean, a lot of the prejudices and stuff, because I'm from New Jersey, so we have different views of how we're gonna be treated down south. But like, this was a Caucasian white girl, you know what I mean? And again, like, I grew up, I have white cousins, I have black cousins, you know what I mean? I have Spanish cousins, so, you know what I mean? I'm fortunate enough to be outside that, but I also have a prejudgment of the South, because I've never been there. Right. So being us up from the north, we always think the South is a certain way, you know what I mean? And when you go down there, you're like, yo, it's not, you know what I mean? Everybody's a certain way. There's certain people who have certain prejudgments up here, certain people who have prejudgments up down there. But, like, when I went down there, people were people. Just like when I went over to Ethiopia, people were people, you know what I mean? And she saw me as an artist, and she was like, hey, you want to come over? She wasn't like, oh, I'm doing this for a little, you know what I mean? I'm helping. She was like, yo, I'm helping out artist to artist. She literally said that, artist to artist, you want to come over, because I already got a guy. You know what I mean? I was like, cool. I mean, I crashed over the house 2 or 3 nights, you know what I mean? And I went back to Panama City, you know what I mean? It was, wow. And stories like that all over, you know, and just experiencing that for the last 2 years. But it's so much energy, because I talk to, every time I set up, I just set up on random street corners, you know, like, or the street corners that are hot that I've been at, or boardwalks, and just talking to random people from down south who are like, oh, I've seen this on the internet, I've never seen it in real life, or like, whoa, this is awesome, like, that's amazing, I've never seen people do spray paint like that. or people being like, oh, this stinks, or like, oh, this much, I thought it was this much, and just dealing with all those energies. It's usually mostly positive, like so much positive, but like that's why I talk a lot. You know what I mean? Because it's like I gotta deal with those energies and talk back.
No doubt, no doubt.
And sometimes it's real heavy. And at the end of the year, at the end of 2018, it was just such a great experience. I was so happy. 2019, I went out earlier. It was a good year, but I did better monetarily wise. I hit better spots. I knew where I was going. I saw a lot of people who I wanted to visit again. It was beautiful. But toward the end of the year, I was like, I kind of felt almost like a minstrel. You're like, yo, dance monkey, you know, like, you know what I mean? Like, people like, oh, that's a spray paint guy. Oh, I saw this guy on YouTube. Oh, that's one of those other guys. And it's like, yo, I'm not a spray paint guy. Like, my real name is Marcus Story, if you want to Google that. But I'm Budda Black. You know what I mean? I'm out here. You know what I mean? It really doesn't matter who I am, but you know what I mean? This painting isn't even like this painting, so it's not even like whatever other guy you saw. You know what I mean? It's not like some guy on the internet. And when people ask me, oh, what's your Instagram so I can follow you? What's your Instagram so I could support you? And nothing against Instagram. Like, do that if that's what you're into. But for me, like, it messes up my mentality. I'm looking at too many likes there. You know what I mean? And I'm not worried about the street. You know what I mean? Or not the street, just the sale right there. And people are like, oh, why don't you have Instagram? They tell me, and I just gotta give them my rebuttals, and just dealing with that. And I'm like, yo, why am I doing this stuff? And I'm doing all these paintings for less than $100 on the street at the time. And I'm like, man, I'm like killing my lungs. I got a mask on, but like still, I'm working with these paints, doing this stuff for hundreds of dollars when people are selling $10,000 pieces. You know what I'm saying? And even though like I could make a good day here or there, it's like only a couple months a year I'm good. Yo, why am I doing this? And at the end of 2019, like yo, I really don't even know if I want to go back out, you know. And it's like again, I contract up here. I do furniture installation up here. I also do the music. I could go back to the studio that I worked at, but again, like I'll go in and out. It was a jazz studio. It's called Kaleidoscope Sound. You could Google that. It's an awesome studio. But with me, again, nothing against the people there, nothing against the staff. I love that staff. I have a huge mural on the outside of that building too.
All right, and we back. We running out of time, so we about to wrap it up. You know what I'm saying? We about to bring this video to a conclusion. You want to finish up what you were talking about?
Yeah, so I just want to say, to answer the question, the whole current situation, that all the negativity aside, for me, it kind of just focused me, and I had to answer the question, do I really want to do this? And yes, I kind of continued to, I chose that, you know what, I'm going to get back on the road. I made 137 paintings this year, 593 last year, 800 the year before. This year just very light, but beside that, I've also helped out with some murals, and I want to get more into the murals and more into my fine art, and I want to kind of get more off the street. Still on the street, I love that, but I really want to get more into the story pieces and not the Budda Black pieces, the pieces that I actually put more of myself into, and I signed with my real name, Marcus Story. So I would love to do just commissions, any type of commission. Just hit me up. If you have a budget, let me know your budget. Don't even go by what you see on the cart. Those are for large paintings, and I work with all my customers on the price, so don't even worry about that. And I just want to say, yo, you could do anything. Like everybody told me that I could do anything my whole life. I've had a lot of those positive influences. I've had negative ones too, but listening to positive influences, you could do anything. You could draw, and just hit me up, call me. I will mentor you. I'll help you through the phone. I'll help you through the internet. If you're in Jersey, you can come to me. I can come to you. If you're in any of my routes, I can come and see. We can paint together. I have no problem with any of that. Yeah, I'm just really, really appreciative of this opportunity. During the break, I just want to show you kind of what I have been doing on the road. This is kind of the stuff that I do on the road. If you want to hold it for a second, I'll turn on the black light. And yeah, so I do spray paint art like this, and with the black light,
it's crazy. It pops.
It pops a little bit more, with the light off.
It's so crazy.
Turn off the light for 1 second. so we can really kind of see what we're working with right now.
There you go.
So all my stuff that I do is all my spray paint work and a lot of my acrylics and oils are also black light accessible. You know what I mean, like that. But yeah, hit me up, buddablack.com, BUDDABLACK. Marcus-story.com, MARCUS-STORY, or just Google Marcus Story, Google Buddha Black. The website should come up. You can see what I'm working with. Yeah, man. And again, man, come on, man. Yo, really appreciate this, man. Man, I can't say enough, man. This is going on my website right now.
The pleasure's all mine.
Yeah.